Hello everyone, Chris Gaming here and welcome back to another video. It is that time of the month again, well, yeah, that sounds right, when we review the Forza 6 DLC pack for this month, and it's the May DLC, and as the temperature's starting to rise all around the world, particularly here in England, they decided to release the Hot Wheels car pack. You've got a brilliant sense of humour, Turn 10, but regardless, we're moving on to the pack now. And as you've been already able to see out on the Forza Vista and going around the track, we have the first car, which is the BMW X6. Now in real life, this really isn't a car that I like very much. I don't think it looks very good, and as proven, it's just not very good. However, on the Forza Vista at least, on Forza at least, it's actually not half bad. I always say that I have some surprises, some disappointments, and some general favourites from the car pack. This is one of the surprises. It's very good in a it's pretty good in a straight line, and it's also not too bad in the corners. But it is an SUV, so it's not exactly cornering level and flat, as you can see probably already just on these cameras. But it's certainly not bad at all. It's solid as it is. It's very, very, very solid. This is a decent car, but at the end of the day, it's still an SUV. And moving on to the next car, and I'm doing all the cars just in one big video, as you may be able to tell, just to save, well, there's probably going to be a bit of a quicker way to do this. So yeah, we've got this car, and if you follow cars that much, you'll know what this is, and it is the brand new Ford Focus RS. Obviously, the first one released since 2009. There hasn't actually been one released in 8 years. Wow, that's been a long time. And now it's on here on Forza Motorsport 6, famous for having the apparent drift button in real life. Sadly, that really I could have done with that here, because this car was not good. The straight line speed wasn't too bad, but oh my god, the cornering. The cornering was atrocious on this car. I understand it's four-wheel drive and it's a hatchback, but jeez, I can hardly begin to find the words to describe this. You just end up going around every single corner. It's kind of, you don't notice it until it's about midway around the corner, and then you just get about miles and miles of understeer. It just will not turn. This is certainly one of the more disappointing cars of the pack, which is a real shame as well, because it looks really good actually. It's the extra parts and the paint as well just look very, very good. It is really a massive shame, because I don't know, with the four-wheel drive and being a sporty Ford Focus, it seemed to be setting itself up well, but sadly, the theory could not be executed properly. Now, moving on to the next two cars are probably the big reason behind this car pack. These are this is, first of all, the 2005 Hot Wheels Mustang. I'm just calling it that for short, there's probably a bigger name to it. But it's quite crazy. It's just, everything about this car resembles some kind of Hot Wheels style thing. The front wheels are blue, the rear wheels are orange. There are crazy modifications all over it, and I myself put a matte finish on it just because it actually looks pretty cool. But this car, very, very good, very nice indeed. This car this is a 2005 Ford Mustang. I just want to put that into context. It's a 2005 Ford Mustang. So the corners, it's not exactly brilliant at handling. Well, it shouldn't be very good at handling. It should only be good for a straight line. However, this car is alright in a straight line, maybe not as good, but it's actually very, very good in the corners for a muscle car. It really can turn a corner and decently hold its grip, decently not have understeer, not have oversteer. It's just really solid, this car. And I took it around Sonoma, obviously. There's a lot of fast corners, there's a lot of there's fast corners, there's slow corners, you need the traction, and you need generally good, sharp handling in order to make the corners. And the Mustang dealt with them at every single occasion. It was just bang on the money every single time. This was quite possibly, I'd say, about maybe my second favourite car. I was about to say third, but maybe second favourite car of the pack. However, we now have to go on to this. This is the big, I guess, the headlining car of this pack. The Hot Wheels Boneshaker. Maybe it's called the Boneshaker because you're going to want to shake your bones about after driving this thing because, oh, dearie me. This obviously was meant to be some kind of... It's based off a Hot Wheels model, an older one as such. But I'm afraid to break the illusion for anybody who hasn't driven this car yet, but it's terrible. It really is. The only thing this is good for is quarter-mile drag races. That's it. A quarter mile and that's it. Because the top speed, I could maybe... I'm not sure how much more I could do with it, but the top speed currently, when I did a bit of tuning to it and a bit of upgrading, I only got it up to 170 miles an hour. Well, the acceleration was rather ridiculous though. 0 to 60 in 1.6 seconds and 0 to 100 in 4.7. So the car is crazy when it gets going in a straight line, but the corners is another matter altogether. It is just horrid to drive. Put it this way, I'm not the best Forza player, so I use some of the assists, like traction control and stability control. And coming down here, I'm not putting this on. The car was swerving around all over the place. The car would not stay in grip. It would not turn. It was horrid to drive. It really, really was. And it's a real shame as well, because this car is quite possibly one of the coolest looking cars in the pack. And now it's just... And it's ruined, because the second you start driving it, it's terrible. It really is. I'm not putting this on because when you set up the free play, you have to do a certain... Well, you can do a certain preset number of laps around the track. And at Brands Hatch in particular, it was 4 laps. I could only complete 2. That's how much I did not want to drive this car again. The headlining car of the pack, and it flopped. So, moving on to something much, much nicer and better. It is the brand new 2016 Chevrolet Camaro Super Sports Edition. Now this is more like it. This car, a lot like the Mustang we saw earlier, is another one of those muscle cars that does prove that they are getting a lot better and be aiming, maybe, to compete with the big guys from Europe. But the Camaro really is a step forward. Obviously we have the Mustang GT350R, which was put in Forza from the beginning, and now we have this. And the only company that's still yet to put forward a car that I'd say, well, put forward a muscle car, a proper muscle car, that can actually compete with its European equivalents is Dodge. And as far as I know, they're in money troubles. Well, they're not the best financially, so we're going to have to wait to see what they can do. But in the meantime, we still have the Camaro and the Mustang. So, how was this? Pretty good. Pretty good indeed. There was never a time where I thought the rear was going to go too much. The front bited. And it's got some good straight line speed. It really is. Muscle cars are really starting to take over. The Corvette, obviously, that was released not too long ago. We've seen that is... We saw that when it came to Top Gear and was put against a Porsche Cayman, it was about 2 seconds a lap faster. And it's quite clear that both high-end muscle cars that are almost sports cars, like the Corvette and the Viper, are now starting to be able to compete with their European rivals from Porsche, Audi, I don't know, loads of others. And now the more proper V8 bigger muscle cars are now coming through as well, like the Camaros and Mustangs. It really is looking promising for America. And now on to our final 2 cars of the day, and now we're getting into more my kind of thing. This is more what I like to see. First up, we have this, from Britain, the McLaren P1 GTR. Look at it. That is something to behold, this car. It is a very good spectacle. So, on the circuit, what could it translate to? Really, a big is kind of this car. This car, I'm going to put this out here. This car is in P class, as in 1 down from the top, which is obviously X classes where you have your Formula 1 cars and your Indy cars and your tuned up Le Mans cars. And this, I don't know. Obviously, if anyone's driven the normal P1 on any of the Forza games, you'll know that it has a tendency to feel very heavy in the corners, to feel quite understeery, and also maybe a bit oversteery. You'd expect a P1 GTR to have some massive upgrades, tuning, whatever term you want to put to it. But you'd expect it to be a lot better, and you'd expect it to be able to fix these problems that the original P1 has, right? But it's not. It's just not fixed. It still feels very heavy. Through here, that should be easily flat out. But, you know, that small right kink before cops, you should be going through there flat out. No problem. However, in this car, I had to lift through that. And I also went a bit wide on cops because I didn't see that coming. Maggots and Beckett's again. You end up going down to a snail's pace, and it's not a nice feeling when you've got a car that looks this good and should be so much better. What is with the heavy steering on this car? I know Forza 6 has a tendency to have a rather heavy handling model, but that can't be the only reason. There has to be something that lies further within the McLaren P1. And on to the final car of the day, we have this. The 1990 Ferrari F1 car, driven by, this one in particular, driven by Alain Prost in the 1990 season, beaten to the championship though by Ayrton Senna, obviously after his questionable antics in at the race in Suzuka, which obviously he admitted afterwards he deliberately caused the crash in order so he could win the championship from Alain Prost. However, I can clearly see why the Ferrari gave McLaren a run for their money. This was properly quick. The speed from this thing was astonishing. It was doing about 213 miles an hour, which is very good even by today's standards of Formula 1. To be able to doing those speeds. If you compare those to the V8 cars, I'm pretty sure they were doing near enough the same speed. The only difference is the cars these days have so much more aerodynamics than these cars of yesterday, basically. But it handled very well. It had amazing straight line speed, and also the noise. That noise is... Ferrari have a knack for making stupidly loud race cars. If you look at the Ferrari F33 SP as well, both of these have very similar engine sounds. The screaming engine. I'm not sure what the 33 SP has, but this I know. I'm pretty sure it was part of a V12 era. And it just has such a lovely scream. It has a massive scream to it. Thank you all very much for watching this video for the May DLC. I'm not sure how many more packs there are to go in the Forza 6 game, so this could be one of the last few. But I'll see you then next time, guys.